Yeah, everyone, Rock DIY here. What I have here is a Hydrostar drain monster. I've had it for about 2-3 years. Used it quite a few times for my own things and then also help other people using it. And what I'm gonna cover is, if you've used this before or you end up buying one, you will more than likely experience where your cable will twist. And it's not so bad when it's on the outside. What's really bad is when the twist is inside the drum. And if you look, there may be a video out there. I'm not 100% sure. I did look, and I didn't come across any videos that show how to get a twist out of the inside of the drum. So there's two ways you can do this. You can attempt to try to remove it by reaching through these two holes on the drum and then try to replicate it. But you would have to take the belt cover off and take the belt off, make sure you don't have any power applied, and then basically you would have to pull in, pull out, and determine which direction you need to go in order to get that twist out. Not very easy to do because these holes are very small, and if your twist, you can see the majority of my cable is in here, and it's not wrapped very tight. If that twist is in there, it's going to be very painful to get out. I'm going to show the second method to remove the twist in the cable, which is a lot more work. And this is what you would do. One, make sure that there's no power at all going to this. Make sure it's not even plugged in. You don't want any chance of this running. And then what you're going to do is remove this cover. Best thing to do is put the washer and the knob back on so you don't lose it. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to run this belt off. And the way you typically do this, or can do it, is push the belt and rotate the drum. And then the belt will come off. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to remove your tensioner, and you're going to take this knob all the way off. As far as the tensioner, you're just going to leave it on the cable like this, because trying to get the cable through, you're not going to be able to disassemble it. So just leave it free floating. All right, so right here on the back side, there is a spring-loaded pin that holds the drum in place. And all I'm doing is holding the drum and rotating it out. All right, now that the drum is off, I can take the belt off. All right, so now I can move the motor and the carrier out of the way. Depending on where the twist is in your cable, you may or may not be able to do this, but depending on where it is, what you do want to do is pull as much cable out to make this easier. So what I'm going to do is pull cable out and then go from there. If in fact your twist was inside the drum right now and the majority of the cable is out on the floor or on the ground, then it would be easy to attempt to remove the twist while the twist is in the drum. But unfortunately, if there's a lot of cable still in there, you don't really have any room to attempt to get the twist out. You can try, but it may be very difficult. So what we're going to do is remove the spool that's in the center of the drum. And the way you do this is there's 3 Phillips screws here, then there's 5 nuts and washers on the back side, plus your cable nut right here that you're going to remove. By the way, these nuts and bolts, once you loosen them, they will spin freely. So you may have to put a ratchet with an extension through here, or reach your hand in with a small ratchet. And I have a pretty big hand, but my hand does fit in there. Kind of tight, but it does go in there. In my case, 3 of them came off easily, and then there's 2 that didn't want to come off. sure why, but this one did not want to come off. So I went and got a little stubby ratchet wrench. All right, so that comes off once you get the nuts and bolts off. Now, this is loose. In order to get in here, you have to remove the cable. And before you remove the cable, best thing to do, it's okay to do video, but it's better to take pictures so you know which way the cable needs to be routed. So again, going back to someone who just wants to replace the cable, if you're just going to replace the cable, you can just undo this part right here and then put your new cable on. But for this specific case, I'm going to take this off just to make it easier to work with, so I don't have to keep dealing with the weight of the cable constantly moving the drum all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. So there's that. Now I can do the rest of it. This piece that holds the cable to the drum, you're not going to be able to pull it out that way. So you have to orient this so that you can pull both the spool and this part out at the same time. And there you go. So somewhere along in that procedure, you should be able to get the kink out or the twist out. And there's so many different scenarios where the twist can be at the beginning, can be at the end. There you go. For reference, it may look like this drum separates, and you can see that there's no welding here. And the only time that you'll actually see the welding is when you look inside. And what they do is they put little spot welds inside the drum to keep the drum together. You can see one right there. There's like 6 of them in there. So you're not going to separate these unless you break those welds. If you decide to separate the small cable that's inside the drum from your large cable, you can pass it through the front part at this point. You see. And whatever you do, don't lose that little nylon or plastic washer. It goes right in there, and then the cable goes through. Just make sure you keep all those together, or make sure you put the washer back in. If you do need to get the cable off the tensioner, this is the way that you would do it. So if you do have an attachment on here, you have to pull out your wire pin, remove the attachment. Unfortunately, it will not just pass through like this. So what you have to do is remove the tensioner and the spring. Even with those two removed, you still can't get it to go through. And this is what you have to do, is this piece right here, make sure it's lined up. This little post, pull this through and out. And then what you can do is you won't be able to pull it straight out. What you have to do is shift it towards over here and angle it. And once you get it over there, you can pass it through. And I only show that because there's no need to take this completely apart in order to get the cable out. When back together. Make sure the little wheel is to the inside, the lever is up, and then take your spring, tensioner knob, tighten it back down, and that is it. All right, so it's completely taken apart, and as with any of these, they're going to get dirty inside, and I've also seen that there's some rust in there, so I'm going to put some rust preventative or some WD-40 in here after I clean it out, just to keep it from getting too rusted out. And in my next video, I'll show how to put this all back together, because I know in most cases people will say reassembling is doing it in reverse of disassembly, but I'll have a separate video of putting it all back together.